Welcome back to IT 360 Advisory Podcast. Again, with your host, Jason Ewers, and we have our owner, Don Dawson, back again. And today we're going to talk, since it is Cybersecurity Month, we're going to talk about security in the cloud. And are you more susceptible to be attacked by being cloud-based, or are you going to be a little bit more safe? So, Don, thanks again for being our guest. What's your thoughts on security in cloud?
Thanks, Jason. Security in cloud. So I've heard from quite a few clients that, hey, if I move this application or these files to the cloud, I'll be more secure. It's not necessarily true. What you are doing is you're moving your risk, right? You're moving your risk from your organization in your walls to the cloud, and you need to understand what that risk is. So you may be removing one risk, but you're going to take on another risk, and you need to have that discussion, that talk, and that analysis to say, is that risk worth it? The old days being whenever we had everything on site, right? We would keep applications, we'd back them up, we'd air gap them. And if something were to happen, we'd restore from backups, we'd bring the application back up, and the client would be off and running. Things have gotten a lot more complicated now. So, when we say the cloud, who's hosting it in the cloud? Or do you have your own private cloud that you're hosting your app in? Are you using the OEM to host the app for you so you have no access to the back end? You're relying on that OEM or that manufacturer, that software to not only host it for you, but to back it up. And then how often are they backing up? What's their guarantee on getting it back up? A lot of those things go out of your hands. Some people like that. But when the proverbial crap hits the fan, at the end of the day, it's your data. And if you don't have control on getting that back, you're a little late to the game. So you've got to figure that out up front before you move that stuff to the cloud. Even things like SharePoint. So you go from you have your shared drive, your S drive on your computer, and you guys move to SharePoint, and you move all your files up there. They're still at risk to get encrypted, maybe a little differently. Microsoft's backing them up, but how long are they backing it up for? 15 days, 30 days? Mm-hmm. So you still need to put those pieces in place to be able to say, hey, if I need to go back and get a file 6 months from now, how do I do that? I may still need to invest in a third-party software to get those backups done.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest misnomer that I hear when I'm talking to people is like, well, I'm already being backed up. It's like, well, you don't realize you're only being backed up for, like you said, 14, 15 days, unless you ask for extended permission to go 30 days. And then, you may want to go pull that file back up 6 months down the road and it's not there, or it's encrypted. So,
and the thing is there's a warm fuzzy that goes in and say, hey, I'm going to put all my stuff in at Microsoft. And Microsoft's not a bad company, but it's a huge company. I challenge you to try to pick up the phone and talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about over there, other than the salesperson, to help you out. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. So You need to have your plan Bs in place. So when something does happen to the Microsofts or these other cloud providers of the world, your company is not left in the lurch and you can still operate.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other question I get is, if you go cloud-based on everything and app-based in the clouds, do you still need a firewall?
Maybe no, maybe yes. I mean, I think everyone's a little different. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need the firewall in the cloud and no longer at your office, because that's when zero trust comes in, right? So you don't care what application or what device your employees are using because you don't trust those devices. All your data's in the cloud. Then I think it's a different conversation.
Gotcha.
A lot of people right now are kind of hybrid. There's still some on site. There's some in the cloud. They have some apps that are in the cloud, but maybe their files and printing still on site, those kind of things. In that case, you'd need a firewall. But I think, it's really a case by case and walking through where your risk is, because you're not getting rid of it. At the end of the day, you're moving it.
So what other applications, I guess, for lack of terms, would you need to protect yourself if you moved everything to the cloud?
Well, we recommend a third-party backup. So Microsoft's backing it up. They say they are. We have to trust that they are. But I would have another backup that backs it up to a third party or back to your office. The old days is you would back up from your office to the cloud. Well, if your apps are in the cloud, why not back it up from the cloud to your office?
Mm-hmm.
There are tools and applications that'll do that. So at the end of the day, it's your data.
Yeah.
And you're responsible for your data. You can give it to Microsoft all day long, but I mean, if you're a small size company and Microsoft, something happens there or you don't have access to it, what are you really going to do?
So let's talk ransomware and malware. What's the cloud more secure, less secure? I mean, what do you need to put in place to make sure you're protected against that stuff as well?
It's the same tools you need to put in place when you have your data local. You need to put multi-factor in place no matter where your data is. You need to educate your employees consistently and throughout time to let them know what to click on, what not to click on. You still need to have log file management to know if somebody does have an access to one of your accounts. So that's the tripwire, that's the Arctic Wolf style of things. All those things still need to be in place no matter where your data's at.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest pushback I get about going from like an on-prem to going to cloud is I don't know, most people feel like they're just more secure with it being in the cloud. And then some people don't feel like they're secure at all with it being in the cloud. I mean, it's kind of a fine line. There's nobody that's kind of in between. It's like, oh, I'm so much more secure with being in the cloud. And other people are still like, I don't want my stuff up there. I don't know anything about it. I want everything here, hardware, on-prem, where I can physically see it. So it is interesting. I mean, I see it going, eventually everything's going to go cloud-based. It's just much easier, especially with work from home. Everyone's working remote from everywhere now. It seems like it flows a lot better than VPNing into your office. Internet connections are slow. You got to back stuff up. It's slow. I know I was talking to one of or a potential client, and they got a remote office, and the guy has not backed up to the server in months because the VPN is so slow that he just saves everything on his laptop and it's not being backed up. So leaving himself very vulnerable for, if he drops that laptop gets stolen, whatever, they're kind of screwed at that point in time.
Yeah. I'd be honest with you, Jason, this is all cyclical. We've been through this. It wasn't called the cloud before. It was called thin clients and dumb terminals and things like that, where nothing resides on the end user's device. Everything's on the mainframe, right? We've been here and done that. It's taking on a different marketing, and with bandwidth being what it is, it allows us to put it outside of our walls, but it really is no difference than what it was. And someday it will come back. Something will happen out there, and then be like, everybody bring their stuff back in their walls, or it'll be a hybrid of that.
Yeah.
But no matter where you are and where you put that data, you need to understand your risk. There is no, I'm covered, it's taken care of, because it is your data as a company and as an owner. Is at the end of the day, you're responsible for it.
Yeah, I read something the other day, and it kind of made sense. It's like, it's not data until it's backed up twice. And I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb to have. And that I've been kind of talking
we like 3 times.
3 times? Okay, even more, even better. 3 times is better than 2 times. So
the and backup twice is probably saying the same thing, because you have your data that you're actively working on, then you have 2 backups of it.
Yeah.
So you have 3 copies of your data at any one time.
Yeah. I mean, I just, a cloud-based, zero trust, we just kind of mentioned that a little bit. Those are all, cloud's been there for a while, but zero trust has been a buzzword that's kind of been popping up a lot lately. Do you want to dive into that just a little bit, just to kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little kind of a marketing buzzword, but zero trust is, it's like the example of that customer or that prospect that you had that had one remote user and had all the data on their computer. That's not the way to run an operation. Whether your data is on site in your corporate office or it's in the cloud, you don't want users having data spread all over out there willy-nilly. You need to control that data and where that sits. And the better you control that data, the less risk you're exposing yourself to. Because right now there's a huge amount of risk for that one employee having all that data. One, it's not backed up like you talked about.
Yeah.
Two, if their house gets broken into, what does that mean, right? If it's not encrypted. So by having zero trust, you're focusing your efforts on putting data in one centralized location, and you're allowing everybody to access it from these devices that you don't care where they're at and what they do because there's no data on those devices.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the gist of the zero trust is um, we have this core where the apps and files are, and they need authenticated to get there, but there's no data sitting back, no residual data sitting back on their laptops, their home computers, that if something happens, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I think that's about right. It's something happens, how fast can you get you back up and going? And
right.
If we've talked about Windows Virtual Desktop, as fast as it's picking up another device, logging in, and you're right back to working.
Right.
There's some great things that's happening. I mean, I love some of the products that we are offering. The Windows Virtual Desktop's a big one. I think that's going to move the ball to the next level. I mean, for a lot of people.
And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but our techs are using Windows Virtual Desktop quite extensively right now. And one of the comments I got from my tech was, they'll come into the office, they'll work on that Windows Virtual device, and let's say they're doing a big install for a client. Then they can go home, they can fire it up on their phone, check the status. Hey, is it still going? Is it going well? They don't have to fire up 4 monitors, get everything back up and going, or run back into the office to check this stuff out. That virtual desktop is still doing what it's supposed to be doing in the background, and we can access it from anywhere securely.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've had Lance on here and talked about it. I'm sure we'll have him back to talk a little bit more in detail about it as we've kind of rolled out RWVD. And I know it's a conversation I have every day with potential clients about it, and especially people who have an infrastructure that's getting aging and they need to update workstations and stuff like that. It's a great opportunity, especially if you don't have a lot of capital on hand to expend on hardware.
And especially with Windows 11 coming out, it's going to force people to buy more hardware that frankly does not exist out there.
Yeah, and that's a whole another podcast. Windows 11 is something we'll definitely be getting into. So, well, Don, hey, again, thank you so much. We kind of bounced around a little bit about cloud and then, zero trust and all that, but I think it's important. At least people get a touch and hear a little bit about what it is. Again, as always, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to IT360. We'd love to talk to you and talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Jason.